Hello and welcome everyone to the losers final match. Feels weird saying final, especially when we know there's at least another one to be played. Of the A Link to the Past Randomizer SpeedGaming Live 2021 tournament. My name's Dante. I'm joined in the booth tonight by Clearmouse. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. This is an awesome Saturday night because we get, as you said, one of the last remaining matches for Link to the Past Randomizer as part of SGL 2021. What a journey, Dante, it has been. It doesn't actually feel like that long ago. That we're what, like a month and a half ago or something like that. We started 3 weeks of qualifiers. We started out with around 200 people, right? Whittled it down to the top 128 after 15 qualifier matches, pretty large races. And then these guys have just been chugging along, made it through the top 128, made it to the top 32 bracket. And you know what? We have 3 final people standing. 2 of them here are going to battle out for the privilege to challenge or to re-challenge, in Ack's case, Matt798, who is just waiting for them tomorrow to face in the grand finals of this entire tournament.
Yeah, and Matt is no slouch either. So, Matt's in a really good spot where he's sitting, and these guys just want an opportunity at it again. But we're underway here. What do you think we're going to have for escape today? I know these guys want that as close to the 5-minute mark as possible for escape.
That is certainly true. And you know what? I believe actually Blaine probably has more of an affinity for this sub-5 escape or 5 flat because, how could you waste all this time checking your maps for pendants and crystals? Like what Ash just did in this case, before you even drop down to go say hi to your uncle.
Yeah, checking the map is a long time. There's no way Act gets the 5-minute mark now unless we get Mirror in escape. But yeah, these two runners have had quite a bit of conversation with each other pre-race and throughout this weekend and this week. One of the hot topics has been the mental damage you take along the way in a seed and how it affects you. So I'm sure we'll see some smiles out of them. There's a little bit of mental damage there for Act, that nod showing that bonk not really wanted right now.
Yeah, no, these guys, both Ack and Blaine, certainly veterans within the community. You may have heard of their names. Obviously, the fact that they are in the losers final trying to battle this out, they are top tier execution runners, routing strategists, and certainly very much experienced, in pretty much, any mode you can probably throw with them. They're at least going to be able to, master this pretty well. Just a bit of history for at least for Buane and Ack for this particular tournament. Ack, of course, was coasting through the winners bracket of this match or of this tournament. Right, started out pretty strong, ended up taking out every single one person, except he just happened to take his one loss yesterday too. Of course, our grand finals waiting person.
Is that a prediction?
Yeah, waiting for him, Massive 98, who knocked it in here, of course, into the loser side of the bracket for his redemption arc. Blaine, though, on the other hand, so he actually yesterday took, with his win over Big Dunka, and got into the privilege of being able to face Ack here tonight, took over the crown from Kyung as the most number of victories here in SpeedGaming 2021 with an astounding 10 wins. He got knocked down by Gem to the losers bracket, actually in the bracket of 128. And he has just been on a tear ever since. It is actually really crazy. And you usually look at the people who actually he's beaten. They are amazing, top tier runners as well. I mean, talent certainly has been no shortage. And these guys are certainly going to give us a really great match tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to admire Buane here. Down to half a heart. Could have taken the safety, but is committed to getting this escape to be as fast as possible, no matter the outcome. And knowing what's ahead of him here, we just get to listen to double beeps for a while because I don't really anticipate him taking any damage. But
yes, the physical damage, of course, he's already sustained. Looks like though he is going to become a safety heart because as you were mentioning earlier, so while you can actually die and escape, and it will actually cost, probably like, like a minute or so. But, the mental damage sustained of dying in escape as basically like the first 3 to 4 minutes out of your seat against somebody like Acktheboker, it is going to weigh very, very heavily on you for the remainder of this game.
Oh, absolutely. You could God route the rest of the seed and still feel like you were 20 minutes behind just because of a death and escape. Just it can be so punishing. But we did get a hammer early on, so hey, that's one of the pieces of the puzzle to get to Dark World. That's one of the things these guys want to see, I guess, kind of early on. It's always kind of a pain to traverse around getting Dark World access and things like that without that hammer. So that's also going to do some Tempered Sword damage for us if we decide to use that for, fighting enemies and such. But we got a sword. We can just dash through everybody. We got the boots. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And that, it seems like actually there have been a good number of recent SGLCs that actually have been mid-Dark World access, and, runners have just been frantically searching for that hammer because, as you said, being able to have the hammer in Dark World is not only great for offense, but you basically have to access, all 8 of the, portals in Dark World as opposed to, like, just the one, right, within for Kakariko, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes things route much better. And all things considered here, Blaine's going to have a really solid escape. Going through the door at 5:03, I got to say, that's pretty good. I kind of expected something like that out of Buane.
Yeah, I mean, given that he was, as you mentioned earlier, down to half a heart, so he actually had to take some extra time, in this case, in order to pick up, that extra heart, those little things, just do add up. And unfortunately, it's not going to be today where Blaine's going to get the 5 escape flat. Of course, Ack, also making his way quickly out of escape. The fact that we also did find a bottle early on from our uncle is actually probably more incentive for these runners to take, I would say, more common route in a standard seed or standard setting. In that, one of the reasons why some runners might end up delaying Kakariko is because you end up, wanting to try and find some fetch quests. First you have a bottle or a flute, so you don't have to make multiple trips over. And the fact that we already found a bottle means that, we at least have to make probably one fewer trip over. So.
Yeah, having that early is always nice. We are getting the lumberjack check from both of our runners, just a shield. So unless we, for some reason, have to do... I'm not anticipating it, but it's still a possibility. So we shouldn't have to do agate today as long as we could find a glove here in Light World.
Yeah. And of course, as part of the SGL settings, it hasn't changed since the beginning. There's all been the exact same, is that this is a casual boots with a modified heart item pool. In that, we got to start with boots, we got to start with a sword, and as part of the heart item pool that's modified, we actually do get we get to keep one shield. So the one that we did see, of course, on Lumberjack was the fighter's shield. There are 2 more out there in the pool, but we're only going to be able to keep one. So chances are they are going to be able to find probably another shield, at least along their path.
Yeah, most likely. Ack taking a save and quit out of the Lost Woods area. Going to be heading over to what looks to be Sahasrahla area in Eastern. This a little unexpected, but... maybe trying to shake things up here going against Buane.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are absolutely correct. So, like, to give you some, a contrast, right, we had, these pretty big qualifier seeds, right, the 15 early ones, and, in those types of situations, right, your strategy changes, right, because you're playing against, like, a pretty large field, right, 50, 60 people, trying to maybe potentially play a little bit more conservative, you don't want to lose, tens of minutes, versus maybe like a Hera basement check or something like that. Right?
Absolutely.
Here, you're playing Buane. If you especially think that you might be at, let's say, disadvantage, whether it's routing, whether it's execution, you are going to try and potentially, increase some of the variance. So, if you think that, maybe coming over here to Eastern Palace, could give you a potential edge, that could be something that could work to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. There's our half magic replacement there on Buane's side. And we've been hyping Buane up as good as he is with execution. Ack is no slouch either. I will say I am a little surprised at the Eastern dip. We're dipping in here. It is a green pendant today, but we do have 3 items. Make it 2 now since we did just find those bombs. But maybe trying to make some plays here, knowing maybe a little bit of metagaming going on. I guess you play against someone or watch someone play enough times, maybe you kind of know their tendencies. Not saying that's exactly what's happening here, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. So I think actually Blaine is actually on record for saying that, it's probably not, worth
Look
the
at Ack.
trouble metagaming. But Ack, this is also, I think, part of, these people's styles, and Ack, of course, getting some immediate payout, like from Pendant Eastern, finding the Moon Pearl. Blaine, though, cashing in that bottom from Sick Kid and picking up a book as well from Kakariko.
I can't believe he just.
Oh man, dude! And of course, this is like one of, I think, the best parts about SGL, right? So unfortunately, SGL, the L does stand for live, and it was actually in person in 2019, which of course I actually did attend to. But you know what? Due to some real life circumstances, we unfortunately could not make it in person. But you know what? We got the next best thing. We get webcams on both of these runners. You get to see all of their reactions, good and bad. Highs and lows of the roller coaster of emotions that they go through. Of course, Ack is very thrilled in this case to find that Moon Pearl.
Oh yeah, for sure. The only thing out of Kakariko, Buane picked up that could be useful is that book. The glove definitely essential for what we're going to be doing here today. Going to need at least 2 of those. Hey, and there's ether coming out of the dam, so Ack going to definitely pick this up. Not sure if we need it just yet, but definitely going to be useful, I guess, in some rooms, in some niche scenarios.
Yeah, actually, so this is actually going to be an interesting point. So Blaine picked 1 pot of magic, just like Ack did, right? But he ended up finding a half magic, which actually was in 1/8 magic decanter. Blaine actually has enough to cast ether here, of course. What is the difference? Because Ack just finds like the big magic drop from these funny Moldros. Because I was gonna say, like, it's actually potentially faster in order to use ether to kill those guys off. You know what, Ack though, cashing in on some pretty nice enemy prize packs here.
Yeah, prize packs being kind for these guys today so far. But I'm not sure if Ack is intending to do it, but I think he may have just armed the water walk. I'm going to assume he's going to be going to Ice Rod Cave before doing any water walking in this area, even if he decides to do that.
Yeah, no, this certainly could be another possibility, and of course, because he only has 166 rupees to his name, and of course also no glove. Not that you would probably want to farm out 340 rupees, from that 20 rupee cave, but he doesn't have enough money for Zora. It's actually not in logic from his perspective because he has no glove. So maybe he's just going to consider to do maybe waterfall fairy checks, maybe take a peek at the ledge, but also maybe go to like Hobo, right?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a possibility here. He could just use this to water walk into Kakariko area. But we'll see which portal he's leaving that portal. So it looks like we are going to get some checks here in this area. I do like this play here because he's going to be able to check waterfall, get 2 items. He will have the opportunity to view the Zora ledge. Probably not going to take that, just to maybe have some incentive to come back when he has some cash. But we just have a piece of heart and a cane of Burna. The fairy today giving us blue goo, so
yeah,
that's nice to have
really
in pocket.
Yeah, no, as part of the modified heart item pool, there are still 4 bottles in the pool. We only get to keep 2 of them, and they always come empty, right? So it has to be a very conscious decision now for you to either pick up like a fairy, or potions, because you're never gonna get a freebie in this case, right? Like it's like sometimes you play more. I said like ladder seas or something like that, for casual boots. You're always gonna end up with some type of like, oh yeah, picking bottle has a fairy in it, right? So it's very easy to kind of like take those things for granted. Here, you have to really just be conscious of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do sequence break the mushroom from the hobo today. Not sure if that's going to be required yet. We are going to get a Zora check for the area from Blaine, just 20 bucks on the ledge. So I'm not going to be needing that, but does have plenty of cash to talk to the big fish. We'll see if any progression shows up here. This is in logic. With the way things have panned out. So Zora just throwing out 10 arrows. So Zora area complete bust. Meanwhile, Ack making use of that shovel, just 3 bombs. So this will be Ack's south entry here going into Kakariko.
Yeah, and actually, of course, on Ack, of course, Blaine also is, also very conscious of this, but their resource management, is also very strong. You see that normally, it's a very easy reflex, especially you dig up 10 arrows, you dig up 3 bombs, dig up 20 rupees, right? You don't really just kind of instinctively, just start to run away, right? But in this case, Ack was actually missing a couple bombs. It's actually gonna be pretty cheap time-wise in order to just pick those up.
Yeah, absolutely. Blaine making his way over to Sahasrahla. We missed on Axe side. There was a little hiccup, but just 20 bucks in that first chest, and I think, yeah, it was all garbage over here.
Yep.
Ooh, and Blaine taking the save and quit.
All right.
So, going to be leaving that Moon Pearl in Eastern for the time being. He is going to quickly run out of checks and have to make a trip back into that area, but that's good news right now for Ack. Ack making the correct plays so far.
Yeah, so of course, as Ack in this case ends up kind of clearing out Kakariko, repeating some of Buane's steps. Now, with Buane's routing, in contrast, he was able to scrounge up enough Zora money, so he was actually kind of able to route in Zora, even though it didn't, end up leading to anything useful. But of course now the Zora Ledge and Zora itself, it's going to be kind of like another, somewhat isolated check, right, for Axe. So it might be on his mind, right, to go back and visit sooner rather than later, especially if he doesn't find anything else to do, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we do have Book, and chat kind of making a point to mention this, but Buane is headed to that desert area. We do have a Gina over there. That's a free check. We do have the Desert Ledge, also a free check at this point. And we do have 2 items in Desert. We could get both early on, but, we may need a fire source to complete the boss. So unsure if we're going to be seeing an item there or not, but we're going to get the Agina check here first.
Yeah, and of course, especially as you mentioned earlier, being down a fire source, it is even a better idea than normal in order to come visit Agina first, because sometimes you like to go into desert with the book and try and clear as much as you can and then make like a left to right type of path in your path with Agina, right? But in this case, if Agina just happened to have, let's say, the lamp or something, right, that is a fully clearable crystal dungeon for you. And in this case, today wasn't, but on the off chance that it does, right, you're going to be sitting real pretty.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is kind of the other thing, diving in, as we just see a heart piece there on the ledge. Diving into desert without a fire source, you're kind of, Buane not looking too thrilled about this, but probably hoping to find, either some progression or maybe even a fire source to just go ahead and clear this out. You always want to try and single dip dungeons if at all possible. But knowing where that pearl is, I feel like we may get a little bit of a reaction out of Buane. All things considered.
Yeah. So, speaking of, this is going to be a new check based on a divergent routing from Blaine, right? So we end up finding the book from Kakariko, but where was Blaine? As he was picking up the book and trying to get out of the village, he was going from north to south. Ack, though, going from south to north. He's going to probably end his route here in Lost Woods, or maybe go to the mountain. But, where is he right next to here? We're going to be able to get a pedestal check immediately.
All right, chat. I don't want anybody to ask what's on Ped, because we know, like we all know, it's garbage. So that these runners are happy. I'm happy. I think Clear Mouse is even happy about that. So we're gonna now we can see what's in desert and go into the dark world.
That's right. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And you know what? So while there is nothing useful on the pedestal, as you said, it's just a piece of heart. It is actually good knowledge for Ack, because he knows that there's no kind of like, should I really go and beat like the boss just in case, if like pedestals no, Ack doesn't, once he finds all the items in the pendant dungeon, like he knows that he doesn't have to do anything else. It's like the fact that it's even negative knowledge, is beneficial.
Oh yeah, and that's always a good thing, just to have your route. Now here's another thing to keep in mind. I'm gonna call it maybe a little bit of metagaming yet again. We have a pendant Skull Woods, and Ack is headed straight there. So
yeah, all right. So I wonder if Buane's teammate and person he just beat the night before is watching, because I actually believe that Buane's file text title from yesterday was "Always Skip Skull Woods."
That's correct.
And here we are, Acktheboker in the front of Pendant Skull Woods, trying to find some value.
Yeah, looking for any kind of edge, maybe to get. you know, if a fire rod shows up here, it could be quite a while before Buane actually gets that, and we're gonna need that with our crystal TR.
Oh yeah, no. All right, so it looks like though we end up not finding maybe anything here in the front. I did see a bunch of keys and I think it was like a map or compass.
Yeah. We'll see if he goes to the midpoint. Looks like he will. Meanwhile, Blaine into Eastern Palace now. Should be getting that Moon Pearl shortly. That was the second item of this dungeon, but Ack left after Pearl, so we'll see if Blaine decides to follow suit.
Yeah, no, this is certainly a good point. You know, so Ack, in this case, well, we know that there's one more item here left at Eastern Palace. Well, okay, one more dungeon item, and then of course there is the green pendant on Lamos. We can't actually get there yet, but Ack in this case is probably hedging his best to say that the third item, if it's accessible, we are going to just skip it, and hopefully it's not going to be useful in the near future. It's like Boyd is actually doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, he's bailing out. Can't say I blame him. You know, maybe thinking maybe Ack's already been here. You know, anything like that potentially. But it's also no guarantee that, you know, you could check the next 3 chests and get the other items. So you may just be wasting time when, you know, there's no point in even looking for it potentially.
Yeah, and especially, right, Boyd ended up picking up his Moon Pearl, which of course was his last piece of Dark World access entry. So, you know, you have the whole Dark World, right? And in order to basically explore versus, what, like a minute more in Eastern Palace, that may or may not even pay out.
All right, so Blaine going into Dark World from the south. So we're going to get the 5-item Hype Cave. Just 10 arrows on that NPC, 50 rupees in the first chest. There's a mirror. That's going to make routing really nice, as well as 2 heart pieces. So mirror, really good to get. You know, if you make the Hype Cave route, be able to just kind of knock out K45 if you take the left route, or the west route, I guess you could say. And that does seem to be the way Blaine is headed. We also got a peek at that Bumper Cave ledge on Ack's side, so Cape not required today. Both of these guys already have 1 invincibility item, and, you know, Cape's nice, but, you know, Cane can be kind of nice too.
Yeah. I mean, you know, so I think with the cane and cape and bottle, spike cape, you know, of course with the hammer and the glove, you know, those other, you know, detailed items, spike cape I think now is actually in logic. We can actually get everything. Still looking for a path up there. Well, you know, we can get up there now, I guess, with the mirror that Boyd ended up finding. Not actually technically in logic yet because we're still looking for that lamp or that flute. Yeah,
lamp or flute's gonna have to show up to get us up there, logically at least, but, you know, sometimes we don't really care about the logic. We just make things happen when we play this game. Alright, so just only 5 digs on dig game. That's always nice when it's short and concise, but just 10 arrows, so not going to need that today. Ack, meanwhile, over in Thieves Town, has 2 more chests here in the front to give us some new information. 20 bucks, and I think that's going to mean this big key is going to be vanilla in this next chest.
Yeah, and of course, you know, what better sight for our sore eyes where we have a crystal Thieves Town, 5-6 no less, and we have a hammer in order to be able to clear this place out. One of course, you know, the biggest, well, I would say, uncertainties of whether or not you want to continue on to the back is it, you know, you don't have the hammer, so you are going to be potentially risking to leave an item here in the big chest. But, you know, if you have the hammer, you have a full go ahead. Please clear out the rest of this crystal and grab your 4 items.
Yeah, being able to not have to juggle, do I clear thieves now or later without a hammer, is always a nice, like, peace of mind thing. You know, 20 minutes in, you don't want to have to make those decisions, and sometimes they can actually be completely run-breaking for you.
Yeah, actually, so I have been told, at least by some runners, is that, you know, you never really forget locations that you end up skipping, right? Intentionally or not, right? And as you said, we're only 20 minutes in. You know, it's like the more things you kind of have to either leave or isolate, or, you know, maybe things open up for you. There were the myths, by the way, in the attic, so that's pretty nice. You know, it's just like kind of the more stuff that kind of weighs on your mind, and, you know, these things do have a compounding effect. You know, Village of Outcast in Thieves Town is pretty dang loaded, wouldn't you say, Dante?
I would. The bow showing up there in the chest game. Ack yet to visit that. But I kind of like Blaine's situation right now, coming up from the south, having that mirror. Basically should be able to do route in North Dark World if he so chooses, or maybe take the detour and get the nice quick Smith turn in if he decides to go ahead and maybe knock that out while he's here. Could opt to skip it and put it off later. But I kind of don't expect I'm not really expecting to see him head over there. You know, mirrorless Smith is quite annoying as far as like how much time it takes.
Yeah, no, actually, so you actually bring up actually a very interesting contrast, right? So, you know, the more, you know, big ticket items, especially on Blaine's side, right? He's gonna go pick up his mitts, very shortly here in the attic. But the fact that he does have the hammer, they have the mirror, Blaine has a lot of options now, right? You mentioned, North Dark World, we can go back south to Smith's Chain, we could sequence break up the mountain, for example, and get like a ton of stuff up there. We can also, get access to Hera, all of the East Dark Mountain, Dark Death Mountain.
Yep.
Ack is somewhat more limited because, he does have the mitts, but he doesn't have the mirror. And so, so in this case, do you think choice this early on is a good or bad thing, Dante?
Choice is a good thing. In some I guess in this situation, it's a little tough to say. I think in Blaine's shoes, the decision is kind of there for him just based off of the route he's had. Same thing goes for Ack. It's just that Blaine's route is working out a little neater and a little better for him overall. I mean, some people would probably disagree with that, maybe, but I think that's just having the bird's eye view that we have as we see Ack finishing up blind here, getting his first crystal.
Yeah, no, it's certainly really good progress, and you actually did see Ack, taking out the Cane of Burnout just in case it ended up using it towards the end. I think we've actually mentioned this before in previous broadcasts, especially at this stage in the tournament, there is no such thing as being too prideful. Death, especially at a boss like Blaine on this type of health and equipment, it is not a situation that you want to repeat. Not to mention, the time loss that you're going to endure, take out your invincibility item and use it so you don't die on this boss.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were talking about decisions to make too, and we also had kind of mentioned about sequence breaks. Another very potentially appealing sequence break could be Palace of Darkness. Oh, there's a lamp down now. Palace of Darkness now fully in logic. The mountain in logic, like you were talking earlier,
gosh,
that changes the whole game right now. So this is so Ack making a liar out of me. Headed over here, probably just gonna check out hammer pegs. This makes sense, I think. If something's here, there may be a long time before he gets to come back, and in his shoes, he doesn't know where that mirror is going to pop up. So we have the convenience of knowing that it's going to be like in the next 10 checks for it.
Yeah, and so this is certainly a good indication that, potentially he is going to, go, take the south loop, right? And, probably end his route of hype people, or maybe even further out, called Palace of Darkness. I was actually curious if he was going to consider bringing the Smith along just in case, maybe. But I guess we're gonna have to see. It's probably not gonna be that big of a time difference if he just takes the extra time to go pick him up, because I don't think he, like, if he decides to go to Palace of Darkness, it won't be like of any real consequence, right? He can still get in with the follow-up.
Yeah. Blaine gonna have to be a little careful here. I know this is a scripted fight coming up, but we saw it go off the rails just a little bit for Ack. The very same thing could happen here with Blaine. I'm hoping not. Come on, Buane. Just quick swap over to the cane. Just make me feel better about this dude.
And of course, this might be even more pressure or visibility for Buane here. He, I believe, has been a vocal judge of the blind fight. But you know what? Buane is a 123 NMG runner. He doesn't care about health for blind. That is a very safe and scripted fight over. What were we all worried about here?
Yeah, Buane doing a good job showing why he has that confidence, playing with that confidence as well, and executing very nicely, even in that low health kind of a pressure situation.
Oh yeah, speaking of, so Buane has actually demonstrated that, he very much enjoyed his double heartbeats, and you know what? One of the nice consequences, the fact that we actually have here in SGL, our health growth is much slower than normal, because most of our health increase is going to come from heart pieces as opposed to heart containers, right? And the fact that, even though these runners are on, 6 hearts, you know what? Buane just needs to pick up like 1 extra heart in order to stop the heartbeats, from our perspective.
Yeah.
So.
So, I was talking about Buane's route being better. Now with that, I'm not really sure. I like how Buane's routing everything here with the mirror. This is a very fast check with the Smiths. But now Ack is logically able to just head right on into Palace of Darkness, and it kind of just flows really nicely with that whole South Dark World traversal. So after he pays the $110, or rather rupee, entry fee, we'll have 5 items to find and a pretty low health, all things considered, low equipment Palace of Darkness ahead of us.
Yeah, no, that's certainly a good point. So of course, those of you who might be more familiar with the NMG visit around this time for Palace of Darkness, you do come in here with 6 hearts. If you do not pick up the Sanctuary Heart right out of Escape, that is actually quite the norm for a runner like Blaine, because, you can't spend 3 seconds picking up a safety that you don't need, right? You know what? But for most runners, you're probably coming in here with an extra heart just in case, because Helmasaur does do 2 hearts of damage when you get a hit, and of course that 7th heart really does make quite the difference. But of course, another major difference, as we can see on Ack's side, you're still on Fighter Sword. Our offensive power is not going to be, as great. So actually, this makes it actually even more dangerous than, the already pretty dangerous, trip over here to Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, it's definitely nothing that you could take too lightly. Ack gonna try and hover over to the right side of Palace of Darkness.
Oh man, good luck,
getting
Ack.
the turn. And unfortunately dropping it. Gonna go ahead and not try to waste any more time here, and head on to the rest of these checks in the front. Meanwhile, Buane turning in purple chest, so the whole Smith chain, nothing of value from there. We are going to get a new check here on Buane's side with the Bombos tablet. Not going to be able to actually pick it up, but we can read and see what we're going to have here.
Ooh. Okay, so that's really good knowledge for Blaine. We do actually see, of course, thanks to our awesome tracker, Link Force, clicking all the buttons behind the scenes. I can't believe we actually waited for so long in order to mention her, but she has been doing a great job marking not only the items that our runners have picked up so far, but also marking those really nice crystal and pendant dungeons. We can see that Swamp Palace is a crystal. We are absolutely going to need those flippers today. Of course, as Blaine just demonstrated, as you mentioned, Dante, we're still on Fighter Sword, so we are going to have to find another sword soon, probably sooner rather than later, right? If you're going to get those flippers off of that Bombos tablet.
I gotta say, maybe they get the hook shot and a Master Sword around the same time. And then you could just kind of route, for Blaine at least, you'd be able to route in, as we see Bombos pop up on Ack's side, you'd be able to route in like Swamp Palace right there with it. Now, that's good knowledge for Blaine, so he's not wasting time looking for flippers, trying to, route in Bombos tablet with that dive of Swamp Palace. So that I don't know how long it'll be before we see Ack actually head to that area.
Yeah, no, this is this is actually very interesting. The number of options that we have available to the seed. I really just actually hope that our runners aren't actually too overwhelmed with decisions, right? Because there is actually this paradox of freedom, in that if you give somebody, in this case our particular runners, too much freedom, it actually can be you can be paralyzed, right? Because you're trying to analyze the best situation, and then you end up probably spending more mental energy and time. Whereas maybe if you were given with fewer options, I can only go to Catfish, I can't do anything else. Well, okay, all right, well, I'm gonna go to Catfish, right? Easy peasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in a high-stakes situation, as we see Silvers popping up here in the Harmless Hellway, it's definitely, something to keep in mind. Here we go, Buane going to try to get this hover over here, and does not get it, and decides, all right, I'm going to move on too. And he's probably thinking, I hope Ack failed this too.
Yeah, and of course, with I certainly don't want to bring up any previous wounds here. That was actually a hover that Ack did try to go for in his previous raid against Matt. It was just really unfortunate that the big key ended up being on the Bollock side, and Ack tried to make it, decided to take his chances to find it in the back, and you know what? It ended up being a pretty costly fail for hovering. But you know what? Ack just found the KSMRA from the big chest. That's a pretty good progress.
That's not anything that's going to give us immediate progression, but with Turtle Rock, that's definitely a super, super essential item. So always nice to have that earlier than later. That's going to make some neat little tricks in Ice Palace much more convenient, as well as Swamp Palace.
Yeah, and actually, it looks like right here, in fact. What? Nice
oh yeah,
timing.
here too. This is perfect.
That's right. So of course, with the Cane of Samaria, Boyne, of course, is certainly very familiar with dragging that statue. And you know what? He's done obviously a very excellent job, being a very talented energy runner. But as fast and good you are for being able to drag and drop this statue, it's just not going to be able to be faster than basically dropping down a cave. We actually see quite a nice contrast here, because Blaine decided basically looks like he's just going to rush Halbasaur. He is not going to have the silver arrows, which is going to be really nice for phase 2, but he also did not have the Cane of Samaria from the back.
Yeah, so I kind of like this route here from Buane. It's sometimes we'll see runners do this just because they can take the save and quit out of the back, versus the mirroring and then having to run through again. Given the equipment that they had, I don't blame Ack for taking the route he did. It's kind of like runner's preference at that point, as far as like trying to figure out where you want to go and how you want to run things.
Yeah. Well, and somehow Ack found some extra health, I guess, in the back pot, because he is actually walking to Helmasaur with 7 maximum hearts, but unfortunately it looks like he lost one. So most likely he's going to kind of be in the same boat as Blaine in terms of how dangerous or how much damage he can take from Helmasaur.
Yeah, and hopefully everything goes smooth here in this fight for Ack. We talked about the low percent equipment, but those silvers popping up, that's definitely a game changer as far as offensive power right now with these bosses. As you see, just the 1 silver arrow and Helma goes down in phase 2. Blaine gonna have to do a little different tactics here. The fighter sword kind of useless in a way against Helma. Down to 4 hearts, gonna have to be careful, but does have spin speed activated. This is gonna make that hammer hitbox go up a little further, and just needs 4 hammer hits. But he is down to 2 hearts, but luckily clutches it out without issue.
While it is actually quite tense watching him take on this fight, especially when he's one-hit KO, I almost want to say that, maybe this is just in Blaine's, comfort zone. He's only here in pod with only 6 hearts. He can't take this one. I almost feel like maybe that extra heart is just like, it's another thing that he's just not used to, right? So he's probably used to being able to basically take this down, under such dire circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Ack, meanwhile, headed to Desert, not opting to route in that Bombos tablet check, thinking maybe that's a waste of time, but that's just going to further isolate that item for him, which if you're wanting Ack to win this, that is something you definitely do not want to see right now.
It certainly, of course, could be possible that Ack will decide to do like Smith Chain later and kind of come back to this area. And these decisions, by the way, can actually really influence runners, I guess, like go mode items, right? I mean, it is kind of far out. We're only 35 minutes into the seed, but if Ack can maybe somehow delay those flippers and make it potentially his go mode. Like I said, big speculation here. He's gonna have kind of a different, probably just situation, versus Blaine, where he knows maybe that he wants to pick those flippers up sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah, for sure. We know, all we know from our perspective is that they are required for this seed. We don't know if anything's behind them besides those crystals. So the scenario you just played out is very, very possible. So we'll just have to see how things shake out here in the next, I guess we could say hour or so.
Yeah. Of course, maybe this is, Dante's blessing. The previous couple seeds that you ended up kind of casting over for SGL ended right around an hour. I'm not really quite sure that this seed is shaping up to be like that, but you know what?
Oh no.
Progression could actually just be, very clustered. We could basically hit go mode very quickly, very suddenly. We don't know these things.
Yeah, it's true. I'm no expert on timing things, as we see Buane getting his cane, but I don't really think we're gonna see a sub hour at this point. All things considered.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I don't have official confirmation for this, because I don't think I have all of the times from the races, but I actually do believe that it was Ack versus Dunka in one of the races. Ack actually barely broke the 1 hour mark. I think his official time was like 1 hour 39 seconds or something like that. I think, maybe, Ack just, moved a couple pixels here and there in, better ways. He might have broken that sub, he might have been the sub hour, but that was a ridiculously fast finish.
Yeah, you don't see that stuff often. Times like that are very few and far between. A lot of things have to go right, and you have to play well. So, you know, those are like pipe dreams, I think, a lot of times. But Ack is going to be headed to the back of Desert. I think there's an item back here. I may have miscounted.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think we saw. I don't even remember what the not important item was in the big chest, but it wasn't important. But in this case, there is actually going to be one more item, whether it's going to be progression or not, here on Lamos. Of course, it is another clearable crystal, and the fact that Ack does have the lamp that he ended up picking up from the village of Outcast, you know, he doesn't have to necessarily worry about, you know, routing into Gina first because he already has a fire source, right? He'll just route Desert the more or less, you know, left to right type of path.
Yeah, it's a few less, or at least one less transition. You don't have to worry about running out of Agina's cave, as we see 20 bucks there on the old man. Running out, just, it's not as long as it appears to be, but it just feels terrible. And if you can find a way to not have to do it, you definitely want to be able to skip that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of like a question of like, do I save and quit out of here? You know, even if I have the flute, hello, Master Sword. We are going to be able to get those flippers now on Blaine's side. I think was that a heart piece or something inside Spec Rock?
I think it was.
Okay.
He's not going for it. It wasn't important.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's like, you know, these ledge checks, or, you know, race game checks or whatever. I mean, they're so fast by these runners. You probably could listen to telling, I guess, like whether they care about the thing or not, basically just on like a few pixels. It's just like, okay. Well, I guess it's not important if we don't see them going after it. So.
All right, so Ether Tablet check from Blaine, just a heart piece. But we do have a fully clearable Tower of Hera in front of us, and it's a crystal. We're going to have to do it. There's 2 items in here. So Blaine going to take a dive and start checking some of these item locations.
You know what the benefit is for not having the hook shot here, Dancy?
Being good at NMG will help you through the rest of this dungeon.
Yeah, well, so of course, so Boyne, of course, being a, you know, 123, he has been here thousands, you know, if not the tens of thousands of times by now. But I was actually going to say, so, you know, Hera basement, especially due to the consequences of Hera pot, has really kind of been a plague, I would say, you know, for some of our SGL contestants. Most notably, you know, Blaine, actually on Restream, the very first qualifier was Blaine versus Gem, and you know what? There was the big key in the basement. And what happens to be was the required flute that you needed in the big chest. And of course, you know, if you have the hook shot, you Hera pot up, take your chances, see what happens. Oh, there's an item left here in Hera. You know what? Oh, we'll come back later for it. I'm sure it's not going to be important, but you know, if you don't do Hera pot, you really can't run this risk.
Yeah, for sure. And we did see one item down on the first floor, or I guess second floor, as it were, with the way this dungeon's laid out. But we do have a Moldorm fight coming up, still in search of that second item, and it very well could be our progression. Could be a small key to the basement. We'll have to, and then we'll have some more stressful decisions to make.
Yeah, certainly hoping for both for everyone's sake, and of course for Point and Axe perspective, that we want to see the second item here on Moldorm. Doesn't matter how useful it's going to be. We really care about this crystal, but we just really care if we have to sit through Hera basement tile room.
All right, so Moldorm down for Blaine, and we get a fire rod. So that's our second item. The basement completely out of the question. The rare occurrence of the small key being in the basement.
Yeah. So
always nice. You love to see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it's not only, it's just like, I don't have to make a decision. It is like the best possible layout because I never have to come back to this place ever again. But you know, with that fire Dante, and we have Canis Mori, we have 2 medallions. Are you tempted at all to go into one of our other crystal dungeons here in the mountain?
You know, it's kind of tough because I know that Ice Palace is pretty fast with today's meta, and so is Swamp Palace, and you could just maybe skip one item potentially in Ice, maybe be okay, and then maybe skip just left side and Swamp, and that could be anywhere between, like, you know, 2, maybe 3 items, if you're, you know, looking at the big chest as well. But, you know, I think at this point, you want to check the medallion up here, but you want to get that hook and then hope that Ice Rod is just on that path, you know? I'm not really sure that diving right now into Turtle Rock is just That's a tough decision. I'm glad I'm not driving tonight.
Yeah, and these are, so certainly from our, spectators' perspective here, these are really great, analysis questions, what if scenarios. As you mentioned, maybe from a runner's perspective, this is, again, it's like, I don't really want to be presented with this type of choice, because what if I end up making a wrong decision, especially, how many seeds have we had, actually, especially, very notably, Buane versus Donka, right? Donka decided, missing the ice rod, he decided to go up to Turtle Rock to try and find it. Buane had it when he went up, and you know what? It's think about, especially Turtle Rock is not a short dungeon, right? And having the fire rod there can certainly lead you all the way down to Laser Bridge for basically no value. So.
Oh yeah, and it's the chance you take in Rando. You never know. I think Blaine maybe would have. I'd like to think Blaine would have made that same play if he wasn't, reeling from his Swamp Palace mishap in that race.
Yeah, and man, this is also another one of those things where, so of course, Blaine infamously miscounted some of his items in Swamp Palace. I believe he mistook when I would say like a rupee or something, a blue rupee in the flooded room as a compass. Yeah, and so he thought, oh, there's one item left, let me go back in. And of course, it's even worse when you find out you go back in
well then.
for map and compass. Okay, so you were saying about finding the ice rod on your path, right? So
there it is on the path.
Okay, so are we going in?
I mean, I'm going in at this point because there's 5 items here. If I can get in, I'm going. All right, it's Quake. So I think I saw someone in chat say that potentially Quake was on the floating island. I couldn't see it earlier when Blaine scouted it. But yeah, I mean, if that's where it is, then, let's go.
Most people would. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Okay, so most people, of course, in logic, right? They was so the first chest here in Hookjaw Cave, absolutely logic, because what you see Point here doing, they can just bonk off of these pots and get to this chest, right? Absolutely 100% developer intended. Looks like though Blaine on accident ended up picking up the pot, throwing away. So he had no bonk, so he tried to hover over, and then he ended up falling right afterwards.
I mean,
oh, poor guy.
That was something else.
That is actually a good indication that Blaine is at least, somewhat, comfortable or competent here for this particular seed in order to, at least get some potential more hovers in. And of course, as we've seen, verified by Blaine himself, he ended up picking up Quake from the floating island. So yeah, we've got all medallions, including the Quake that we need here for Turtle Rock, and actually looks like Blaine is gonna go in.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. You're already up here, so it's not like a punishing mountain climb. And 5 items plus Mimic Cave, making 6. Hook's probably in here. Most likely Hook's going to be in here, and then Blaine's set. And then the scenario you played out, where the flippers are your go mode.
Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, so let's take some inventory for stock here. So we're right over the 46-minute mark. So we certainly know that we do need flippers for go mode. We do need a hook shot because Swamp Palace, of course, is a crystal. Even though I have every confidence that both of these runners are able to cross that Moldrum 2 gap. Do we need anything else?
No, actually, we don't. We're gonna, we've already found Ice Rod. That was like kind of the biggest, worry, I guess, out of things where it could just be, all over the place. But Flute, at this point, you probably don't want to see Flute. Ack already diving into desert, maybe kind of thinking Flute's not going to show up. And utilizing that book to get into desert to get the clear. And if Flute doesn't show up, Blaine's going to have to go back in the slow way and get that double dip. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a little bit of a time investment. But yeah, right now, like the biggest question on maybe how this race pans out is going to be when will Ack check that Bombos tablet.
Oh man, you are 100% correct. So we certainly, of course, don't know what that hook shot is, but given that we actually have all the medallions and we have the ice rod, these where on earth could this one item be, you know, that basically is not logically blocking, you know, anything, right? Maybe like one or two things. Could be, we already have those, so hookshot chances are is not going to be, hopefully, knock on wood, somewhere pretty terrible. Of course, we know the hookshot can't be anywhere except this chest, logically. But, you know, checking Bumbo's tablet is really inconvenient, right? Especially, you know, you would like to maybe go over there while clearing out swamp. But of course, what's on Bumbo's tablet, which is our flippers, you're not really going to have that option in order to, you know, head over in that direction.
Oh, well, there's our flute.
All right.
So, Ack is probably going to be getting that too, and that's just another thing that's going to pull him away from that area, I think. You know, maybe putting off Smith Chain. So Buane not too excited to see that, because knowing maybe that leads to the hook and you've got to go dive a pendant dungeon you don't want to do. But all things considered, I think for Buane, obviously he don't know this, but it's probably a good thing for him.
No, especially as you mentioned, right? So Ack was actually going to be able to, basically in this case, when you mentioned very early, you really want to try and single dip your dungeons, right? In this case, Ack was able to just go through the front way, you know, and he just went straight to the back. Blaine went through the front way, but, you know, fortunately no fire source, because no lamp from Palace of Darkness, nor the fire rod from Tower of Hera. So when Blaine has to go back and clear out desert, you know, and landmos, he really wants a shortcut to the back door, right? He doesn't want to go through the front door. So so it is going to be a little bit of time saved. But of course, as you also mentioned, the flip side of finding that flute is, so we have all of Pendant Mire available to us.
Yeah, we do, and that's something you don't want to see for just 2 items.
Yeah, and you know, 100%, right? Hookshot could be in there.
I mean, we've seen that before. I think at this point we've seen everything before, but but Buane, with his lovely beeps,
thank you, Blaine. We appreciate this.
Yeah, if you watch this back, I appreciate it so much. Get in the mirror. Gonna be heading into Mimic Cave. Hopefully the mimics drop. I don't know what prize pool they're in, but hopefully they drop a heart or a fairy and he accidentally picks it up.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, it's magic.
I was gonna say, so like speaking of safeties, you know, so we do have, I think at least one. Oh man, speaking of safeties, you know, a temper sword in Buane's hands, you know, often isn't usually, you know, considered to be a safety, but in Turtle Rock, when you can kill enemies now in one shot, it's a pretty good safety.
Buane is right at home now. Tempered sword. Not saying he couldn't do stuff with Master Sword, but this is like, you know, bread and butter as far as like equipment loadout. Just needing that hook shot, and we'll be all set.
Yeah, I mean, you know, especially for a 123 energy runner, this is the loadout that you have, you know, basically for, I would say, the majority of the game, right? Try and get Temper Sword as soon as you possibly can in Dark World, and it's just like the comfort level, right? Once you end up finding, you know, Temper Sword, not only, of course, you know, are you just able to basically, you know, kill everything, you know, what in the manner that you used to. You also don't have to necessarily even ask yourself more like, should I open these chests on Laser Bridge looking for a sword? You know, should I make these extra checks I don't end up needing to? You know, we got tempered, we're set. We don't need anything else. Oh,
yeah,
Ack.
Ack looking mad. Why is Ack mad? Because he found the flute.
Yeah, you know, and again, he had the Cane of Burnout. Oh no, Acktheboker. Please tell me you have a fairy.
I don't think he does, unfortunately.
No. So of course, this is a consequence of having green mail and low health here. Everything does 4 hearts of damage. You actually did see him pulling out the Cane of Burnout, you know, in the Chomps room, because he only had 4 hearts, and of course Chomps would kill you. Looks like he just ended up dashing to that Pokey just in the wrong manner, where the Pokey ended up hurting him versus his sword, basically hurting the Pokey. Man.
Pokeys are the most underrated enemy in this game. They can, wow. Like, Pokeys can just, like, you know, have their puffs bounce in such random ways sometimes, and you never see it coming, and then it's over.
Yeah, you know, it's almost reminiscent of what you just said, as a basically, you know, in the NMG scene, right? You know, they do what's the worst enemy in the game, and it's like Chomps, you know, takes the cake, but you know, it's like every single enemy basically in this dungeon, right? It can be a worst enemy. Pokeys, I agree with you that they are very underrated in terms of danger. You see Ack here taking, no chances, pulling out the fire rod, and hopefully just, killing these guys off in one shot.
All right, well, we're never going to know what was on try next.
Oh no. Boy, come back. I think it's an item though, right?
I think it has to be, because I
Okay.
know we saw a compass. We may have seen a map as well. But hey, Buane is raising his sword, so he did get a crystal. That's what's important.
All right, saving quitting. I think there is actually. Oh, well, okay. So I think there is Spike Cave technically still available to our runners, but it's a pretty long check. We can always go back there later if we really need to. It looks like the point is saving quitting. Probably gonna go activate that flute.
Yeah, and very possible that we just see something like Hook show up in the mire area. Assuming that's where Buane's gonna go, he's gonna just keep maybe following where he's getting progression leading him to.
Yeah, and of course, in the mire area, he certainly does have backdoor access now to desert. So that certainly could be another goal of his.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks like though Ack's having maybe a little bit more of being a little directionally challenged here in Mimic Cave. I think he just wanted to hammer dash out, but ended up dashing the wrong direction.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't play like you want it to, but Buane gonna go ahead and start, clearing up some dungeons here. If he does get the opportunity to make Hook be his go mode, I'm sorry, Flippers, from finding Hook, then all we have left is ice and swamp. And if you can logically find what you need without having to go get Flippers, and then that's swamps along when you're trying to full clear it for one potential final item.
Yeah, no, especially, so have you, just in your entire rando career, out of curiosity, Dante, have you ever gone into Swamp Palace without the hook shot, trying to look for stuff?
Oh yeah, I think
Okay.
everyone has done that at least once or twice.
All right, well, so
sometimes it works. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't.
So
that is literally how it goes.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, I guess, how appealing that option would be versus, or, how much time, let's say, it would take to, fully clear out the front of Swamp looking for that hook shot. Something you would like to recommend to people, Dante?
Well, I wouldn't recommend doing it on, in a 1v1 situation. I think it just depends on your desperation level. I mean, I'm serious. Like, a lot of times, especially if you have a good grasp of maybe who you're playing, in a tournament, your opponent's stuff as like the ALTTP ladder, you do not know your opponent. So, at that point, all bets are off. So, yeah, it really depends on your mindset. And if you're trying to make a home run swing, that would definitely be a play to make. But, 9 times out of 10, I would say that's probably not the play to make.
Yes, that certainly does sound like quite a position, as you said. It could certainly cause quite the variance, especially either, maybe your opponent wouldn't do that, or of course you don't know your opponent at all, right?
Right. All right, so Blaine clearing out desert, finishing off Landmo, and going to be dashing over to check Checkerboard Cave. This is a new item check for us.
Yeah, it looks like though Ack is actually making his way over here to Trinex. So hopefully, after Ack's very impressive Trinex fight here, we are going to be able to see what he ended up dropping. Okay, so Blaine here, knowing that the flipper is of course on Bomble's tablet, he of course is not going to be deterred whatsoever from diving right into Ice Palace here. So we are still missing, the hook shot, and especially with Canis Mar and Icebreaker, this is going to be a relatively fast clear for the dungeon. We are certainly hoping for, a better item layout, so we don't have to necessarily go everywhere in the dungeon. But hook shot could certainly be here in Ice Palace, and of course, if we can find it here, which is what Blaine most likely is hoping for, we can, comfortably, and mentally assured go into Swamp Palace, and just basically go straight to the back and clear it out.
Yeah, and this sequence break, technically from Buane, sequence break in the sense of what items he has. I like this play because he knows it's logically viable. But this is where that little bit of extra game knowledge could come in in handy from seasoned runners. Just knowing, all right, I can make this play, and I don't have to go get those flippers ahead of time, just to satisfy the game.
Yeah, and especially flippers being on Bobo's tablet. I mean, just think of like the pain, right?
Think
it's
of the
very
transitions.
Tedious. Yeah, right. It's so tedious, and not to mention like the time loss, right? You have to, you would really like to be able to, for example, combo that together with swap.
Yeah, for sure. Because that way, it's just one and done at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked about we talked about that whole hookless swamp. That's kind of on the table in my mind. If I'm in Buane's shoes, if I come out of here without a hook shot, I think maybe you consider it. I'm not saying it's like a surefire thing, but I think it's definitely something you kind of have to weigh your options on. And he's weighing
choices.
his options.
Yeah, we love choices. Alright, Ack. Probably. Oh my gosh. Alright, well,
all right.
Is that go mode now for Buane?
That is going to be go mode for Buane, or I guess, excuse me, it's no mode, as people like to say. We know where flippers are, so Buane is going to be operating now in go mode. So at this point, like I was saying earlier, unfortunately for Ack, not knowing those flippers are there, this is just, you kind of hate to see it.
Yeah, and so certainly I would say the good news is that Ack most likely is he will dive from Ice Palace sooner rather than later, and so Ice is of course a fully clearable crystal. He's got the cleanest Mario. He's going to be able to find that hook shot, and so at least he'll know he'll be in Flipper's go mode, right? So he doesn't, and of course Flipper's locking out Swamp completely, right? He's not going to be even tempted to go in. But of course, we're going to, this is of course the consequence of not knowing where the hook shot or flippers are. We have all the medallions, and we can go into Pendant Mire to look potentially for one of those two items that Ack does not know where they are for.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm maybe putting words in Ack's mouth here, and maybe he can correct me if I'm wrong. We can ask him about it. A lot of times runners think if you get an item, then you're going to be, following it to some form of progression. It's kind of a safer way to assume things. And Ack's probably maybe operating on that assumption that, book led me to desert, so this flute, maybe I should dive mire. It also could just be like, Buane's not going to dive mire, I should dive mire.
yeah, no, I mean, all of these things are certainly very plausible, right? This is this is an elimination match. This is being the loser's final game. One of these guys is going to, unfortunately, end their term. Okay. It is an incredibly impressive finish, by the way. Third place not only is a very high rank, also does walk away with quite a good chunk of cash. But of course, both of these runs are very hungry for the second place spot at least, right, in order to face and challenge Matt in tomorrow's grand finals.
Yeah, tomorrow going to be a very exciting day for the grand finals. Every SGL, the one in 2019 in person and last year's online. Always a super exciting race to watch, and a lot of tension around that race as well. And this time, with the double elimination format, we may actually get a bracket reset. If assuming Buane wins this, like if Buane were to win tomorrow, or Ack, if he comes back and wins this somehow, then we'll see a second race between the two runners.
Oh yeah, no, and
so it could be a lot of action tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of how you want like a tournament to to conclude, right? You really want the most exciting matches, basically, at the end. It's just showcasing basically the highest level of play, right? And randomizer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and also though, like as you also mentioned, right? So as just part of routing and some decisions, right? We actually certainly did see quite a bit of divergence, especially from our runners earlier on. Most notably, right? Ack ended up doing Kakariko from south to north, and I think he ended up doing Village of Outcast, right? I want to say he basically went further south, right? But he didn't have the mirror that Buane did.
Right.
right? And so Boyne with that mirror, hey, we can do Smith's Chain now. We can check K45. This is actually going to look a lot more appealing for Ack, right? Who wants to basically drag, who wants to make multiple trips back to Kakariko, right? And drag that purple chest all the way over there, right? So, but for Boyne, checking Bumble's talent was much easier based on his earlier decisions. Ack, unfortunately, just with how the items were placed, didn't really have that luxury.
Yeah, for sure. And I made that mention, like with that mirror, you could do like North Dark World checks. And that's honestly, like, you can see where one decision, when you have a fork in the road at any given point in the seed, really can just almost determine your outcome to an extent. Because, if Blaine hadn't have done that, he might, I'm not going to say he would, but he might be in the same situation Ack is, where he is looking for flippers. Like, where are my flippers? Where's my hook shot? Instead of making that play earlier to get that game knowledge. Like, knowledge in this game is so valuable, when you're searching for so many items to complete the game.
Yeah. And it just happens to be this particular case, right? You can't really control, the order or the locations of where the seed decides to place, their big ticket items. And this happens to be this case. Things worked out much better for Blaine. So unfortunately, it looks like so we of course knew that there was actually going to be nothing, that's going to extremely benefit Ack and Maya. Are they going to picking up another heart container? Certainly not something that he was, in this case, looking for. So where are we going next, Ack?
Yeah, the I guess good news is for Ack, it did not force him or push him towards, any other type of fetch quests, as we like to call them. We didn't find a powder or anything like that, but I do think this might be a Pyramid Fairy play here from Ack, which does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to recall, actually looking at our tracker. I think, is that right? So Pod and Thieves Town were our pyramid. Yeah, so this is, of course, very reasonable for Ack, because this is something that also he has in logic. While we were talking about Ack, Buane, this goes to show you the power of Go Mode Swamp, right? And Tempered Sword, Buane has already finished up with Swamp Palace. Do you see a bunch of numbers here in chat?
I do.
Is something happening?
Yeah, there's no bot, but we're going to Ganon's Tower, everybody. If for some, well, no, we're not. Or all right, which one is he gonna buy? 1, 2, or 3? It's always 3. Always the blue one.
He has so much money. Probably he's not even, whether it's muscle memory or not, he can afford it. So.
Oh yeah. But no, we are headed to Ganon's Tower. There are 22 locations in the basement. Chat always likes to play a little game, and maybe you guys could play along at home if you're watching the VOD, but pick a number and hope the big key's there. We'll see if Blaine does the infamous Blaine route. I'm going to assume yes, in Ganon's Tower, which would be going over to the DM room or the Stalfos room, mirroring, going right side to Compass, and then continuing on the left side should we not have a big key already.
Yeah, and I think also Blaine had mentioned in previous interviews that he, does not prefer to try and meta against, his opponents. He's just going to try and play his game. So certainly keeping consistent with his, preferred GT route is certainly expected here. But again, you don't really know in this case. Just kind of have to wait and see. Buane ended up taking, looks like, the light world path up here to Death Mountain, and so we're going to enter in GT this way.
Yeah, I think Ari said this way is pretty much always faster, especially if the portal is open, versus going through Super Bunny. There's so many extra transitions to have to deal with, so just the Dead Rock RNG can be kind of painful at times, but all things considered, Blaine opening up GT now. It's all about where's the big key and can we get to the top before our opponent does.
Yeah, we actually do see here, this also could have been another consequence, maybe to try and pull Ack over here to the Captain Zora area, right? He was not able to check early on due to his earlier, Kakariko divergence. And, with Catfish being over here and Zora Ledge and Zora, right? It actually now becomes a little bit more lucrative, right? To try and find some more progression.
Oh yeah, for sure. But, with Ack not finding anything in his general vicinity, like the incentive to check other things are kind of going out the window, and I think this might actually be his Bombos tablet check.
So maybe like do you think maybe he'll grab the Smith, right? So like he certainly has like K45, you know, kind of nearby. He doesn't have the flippers, that's right. You know, and so maybe he'll try and maybe do Smith. But no, you're right. Actually, this looks exactly like Bonko's tablets.
Well, he's about to have the flippers that he's wishing he had right now.
Oh no, but is he gonna go into swamp? Do you think, or do you think he'll actually go into ice? If he goes into swamp now, it's gonna be even feels worse because he doesn't have the hook shot yet.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. We'll see what he does. Blaine, meanwhile, still no big key. I've lost count. It's probably not hard to figure out, but you know.
I think, okay, so we saw the torch. It was a heart piece. You know, we went to the left. It was 4 items of nothing.
Right.
A couple of small keys, so now we're back here. So I think we're on to number 8. 8 through 11 here in Compass Room.
Math is hard.
It is hard. Yes, I absolutely agree. This is why. Hopefully, we're gonna, you know, just trust our. There
it is. I believe that was. Would you say 8? So
yes, that should be 8. So
if you guessed 8, you win.
Yeah. I'm actually. Unfortunately, I didn't end up seeing if there was a small key in the right side in Hope Room. If there was, I believe, and Act decides to go to Hope Room first. I believe that should be a time save for him.
Yeah, it would be. I don't think, you know, obviously, I don't think it's going to be enough, just all things considered here. We're going to need Axe Guardian Angel to come visit us.
Oh man, that is, you know, and you're right though, like, even though, you know, there have been races when one run looks significantly ahead, there have been just so many heartbreaking moments where, you know, things happen in GT. Whether runners, you know, and Ganon, right? And it is, it is just amazing to see the lead change, you know, basically at the very last minute. I certainly have every confidence in Buane, though. You know, maybe the silver arrows here will mess up some of his muscle memory because he's not used to having them in MG. But you know, he's been through this gauntlet, you know, tens of thousands of times by now, right? He should be very comfortable here with Temper Sword.
Yeah, I mean, the gauntlet should be pretty bread and butter for him. And then, you know, if he remembers how silvers work, like you were saying, that'll just be to his advantage. But it could be to a disadvantage. Could slow you down a little bit if you're, you know, not used to them. Sometimes that does happen.
I mean, you know, silvers do lag a ton. I mean, so like the timing is slightly different, right? You know, depending on, you know, what you're potentially used to. But of course, you know, Buane, I want to say actually Buane started with Randomizer, so he might be, you know, so his roots might be, you know, embedded in Rando. But you got to see here, in NMG, of course, you're probably used to more having the fire rod. You know, silver arrows are slightly different.
That they are. All right, so we're through land mode 2. We're going to be making the climb into Wizardrobes 1, very simple room, and then we have Wizardrobes 2 coming up here. Ack going to be checking iced tea, which we know is, I mean, it might be an item. I don't know if we got all 3, but we know where the hook is, and we need him to turn around.
I want to say this was a compass. Don't hold me to that, but we're going to find out very shortly. But as you are correct, Auntie. Okay, so it's not a compass. You know what?
It's blue. Was blue. It's a compass.
Yeah, it's
that's
blue.
That's a compass to Buane.
That's. I hope you're not listening, Buane. We very much love you for all the things you do in the randomizer community, as well as a very respected runner.
I'm sorry. Too soon.
No.
I apologize.
I'm sure Buane has a good sense of humor if you're listening at this point. But yeah, so of course, you know, as you did mention, Dante, Ack is going to see his hook shot right here in the big chest, and that's going to be his go mode. And so he is going to basically be, you know, right here with, I mean, he has to basically finish up Ice Palace and then clear out Swamp. But you do see from his reaction, though, that he's not particularly happy. Mainly also, it's potentially that, you know, hookshot here just happens to be along the way, right? Ack knew that Ice Palace was fully available to him with or without the flippers, you know, on his feet. And so he really didn't want to see something like that basically also be on the way, because he knows then that Buane, chances are, didn't have to go to Admire.
Yeah, for sure. All right, here we are in the Act 2 fight on Buane's side. Just need 6 reflected energy orbs. And back at the Mad Lad himself, Aga. Does get a double-double to start it off, so we're at 4, just needing 2 more to finish this fight off, and does get it there, so Blaine kind of laughing about how that all panned out, but the 2-2-2, and we're going to be going to fight Ganon.
Yeah, I mean, we are one Ganon fight away on Blaine's side to face off against Matt in the grand finals. It's been, oh my god, this has been such a journey. So, you know, if Blaine wins today, it is going to be his 11th win. 11 wins, Dante. Do you know how nuts that is? That's so much randomizer.
In 3 weeks, that is more than I aspire to ever have to play anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, so, and this is also just part of the consequence, right? So Blaine unfortunately got, you know, knocked down early, you know, in the bracket stage by Gem, and just kind of as a consequence of how the double elimination format works, once you get knocked down to the losers bracket, you pretty much end up playing, I would say, roughly twice as many games, right? Because not only are you playing a loser, that someone else has already dropped down from the winners bracket, you're also playing against somebody else who's also in the losers bracket, right? So you basically have 2 matches for everyone in the winners bracket. And so Blaine has survived so long, right? And Blaine's record, what is 10-1 going into today versus Ack, you know, his contracts, who stayed in the winners bracket the entire time, was actually just 6-1. So just Blaine has played so much and has endured, you know, so many randomizer experiences here.
Yeah,
but the fact he's still playing this well is just, you know, quite remarkable.
And Blaine's setting up. He already got 2 silvers in and going to be getting another double. So Ganon blowing up, hanging out on that top tile, does have the sword in the air, so all things should be good. Get your GGs in chat for Blaine. Going to be advancing to grand finals to take on Matt 7-8-9-8 on Sunday, tomorrow. And that's going to be super exciting to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, that's 2 really good NMG runners and 2 really good randomizer players. Absolutely incredible.
It is going to be it's going to be a phenomenal matchup. Yeah, but geez, Blaine, congratulations. It has been quite the seed that you played. Very, very well played for sure. Looks like the act is at least continuing on a bit. Looks like we have Blaine in here today, our victor, and moving on to the grand finals tomorrow. GG's, Blaine.
Hey guys, you know how hard I was concentrating on every map and compass in this seed?
Did you think they were bombs? Out of curiosity?
No, not at any point. I was accurately tracking the entire way through. Happy to say.
I guess good thing left side swamp wasn't even an issue for you, right? Because your hookshot was go mode?
That's true. Even better. I didn't have to track anything in swamp at all. Don't even know what Argus dropped. Who cares?
Yeah, at that point, it's a moot point, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, not a whole lot really went wrong in this one. I was a little, obviously, when the seed ends up being so potentially faster, a lot of, you know, worst case scenario stuff runs through your head. But you know, was feeling pretty good. You know, in fact, Ack's certainly capable of playing a fast seed faster than me. But you know, if he was going to beat this, I was perfectly happy with losing. Not really making too many terrible mistakes, not really doing too much. So it felt like it was going to be a winning time, just the way it kind of all sequenced together. And you know, unfortunately, not checking Bombos, I guess. It's what's funny is I had the opportunity to check it after Hype Cave and said, yeah, it's way down there. Who cares? And then after Mitts and Thieves Town, I was like, well, number one, I guess I can just run through the Dark World and do Purple Chest and then kind of correct that Bombos tablet maybe quasi mistake. So ends up working out.
Yeah, I was kind of contemplating if you were going to potentially just continue the route through Dark World, and you know, I figured you'd probably skip Skull Woods, but at least maybe, you know, check out the North Dark World checks. I know that's only one actual check and a second that you could scout. But did Pendant Skull Woods play any factor in that decision to do Smith Chain and go back, or was that entirely just on, you know, thinking I could have checked that tablet and now I can, you know, like you were saying, correct that?
I was definitely never going in Skull Woods. and I'm not just saying that because I see Duncan in chat. I was never going in Skullwoods. If there wasn't anything in Thieves Town and I still didn't have a fire source to go over and do pod safely, I would have just gone up and done the mountain at that point. Maybe like North Dark World into the mountain or something, but no, we weren't going in Skullwoods today.
Fair. And we do have Acktheboker in chat with us. GG.
Yo, GG, guys.
GG, Ack.
Good luck to you, Blaine. I could not have wanted to lose to a better opponent, man. I will most certainly be rooting for you. Like I said, after I lost to Matt, I was rooting for him, but I've now completely done change of view. I'm actually rooting for you and not Matt. So
Fantastic. That was really all I wanted out of this matchup.
all right, well, you got it.
Yeah, look, I've been playing great opponents for the last 3 weeks, so today's no exception. Matt's no exception. Just trying to have fun with it and see how long this hot streak can go.
Yeah, and Rando, sometimes, you can play super well and execute everything correctly, but you also, I think Buane has said this before, have to have some things go your way. And the two people left standing have had things go their way, and from what I've seen in the races they've played, have been playing well. So I'm like I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I'm really looking forward to seeing Matt and Buane go at it tomorrow. And I think it's going to be an exciting game or two.
Are we going to be able to tell the difference between Matt's sprite and Buane's sprite? Because I'm pretty
I
sure
was
they
gonna
both
say,
use Darklink.
It's very intimidating going against
Yeah,
someone who's stolen my sprite.
Whoever had the higher seed gets to get the sprite. The other one's gonna have to change.
Well, you guys should put a wager on it. Whoever wins or whoever loses can't use Darklink anymore.
Oh, for life.
Or
For
like,
life.
if not for life, maybe like a couple months or something.
Those are some
2 lives.
Those are some
How-
serious stakes. I
how-
gotta say.
How about an NMG race between you and Matt tonight for Sprite Off?
Ooh,
Poor Mouse.
That's a lot of
Why? That's so unfair.
Maybe we could give Matt a head start, right? That's.
I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Link to the Past these last couple of weeks, and I don't know if that's making me better or worse because try to jump over and play some NMG. I don't know. It might not go very well. I'm sure Matt's kind of feeling the same way. We want to kind of keep our head in the rando headspace.
Okay, well,
Well,
there
let's
is a
just stick with
preset
that.
vanilla. Don't worry. We'll give you your extra digit for the ruby counter. It'll just be like window.
Oof. Sounds like a lot of effort. Yeah, look, Matt's a top player. At some point when I started playing less, let's put it that way, Matt was really rising to the top of the rando competitive world. So he's been like a tip-top player for a good while now. His ladder record is fantastic. His performance in the big events is pretty fantastic. So it's not a surprise really to see him come out of the winner's bracket. And I'd really love to at least push it to a final game if I can against him. But other than that, there's
Yes, because you have to win.
Yeah.
Did you not hear me?
Well, look, whoever wins, Ack, you will have lost to the winner. So I mean,
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually make me feel any better, but like you do have an excellent point.
you can hold your head high no matter what. But yeah, look, I've been the last, I don't know, every opponent in the entire top 32, if I had lost to them and been out, since I've been playing for my life pretty much the entire time, I would have had no regrets. To anybody that I played, if I lost to them, I wouldn't have said, can't believe I couldn't get past this really, really, really good player. So it's just been fun. You try to have fun with it and see how lucky you can get. You gotta be on top of your game to beat these caliber players. So it's been a lot of fun, and we get one more day out of it.
I will admit too, I do think that my loss was very just because I tried very hard to do dirty this seed and like rushing over immediately to Eastern Palace and then like, oh man, finding that Moon Pearl was it was nice, but man, in hindsight I'm like, man, I wish it could have been any other item. And then I would have felt really, really good. But I think I was deserved for that play that I did.
Was that also your motivation to go into Skull Woods early, Ack?
I thought like maybe I had bought myself some time, and then after everything went terrible, maybe we have lost our time. But it was kind of, I felt like maybe I should play a little bit more, less aggressive, since I had done something so silly. I had premeditated. I was like, if Eastern's a pendant, I'm just gonna go. Who cares? I'm going.
You're right though. If it had been like anything besides Moon Pearl, of course it's gonna like even my last location. That's not too terrible. I like rolled my eyes when I saw another pendant Skullwoods. I think this is like 4 seeds in a row.
Oh, I'm sick of Pendant Meyer.
Set foot in Skullwoods.
Aw, poor Ack.
Why'd that flute show up, man? That flute should have went somewhere else. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you guys were so good this seed. I mean, you guys played very well. It just happens to be in this case, sometimes the items, the items placement kind of favors one player just based on their decisions.
Yeah, it always makes for a bad race when it's just like one thing. In this case, being Flipper's knowledge. If one player has it and one player doesn't, it's pretty gross. But it's rando's gonna get you one way or another. So.
That's been all of my races, like every race I play. For some reason, me and my opponents always tend to do something different, which I guess, if I say it like that, maybe I'm the common denominator here, but I refuse to believe that. But it seems like there's always a lot of pieces known on both sides very early when I play. I guess you guys didn't really know where the hookshot was, so probably the bitter end.
Yeah, we didn't end up finding out until Blaine pulled it out of Ice Palace. We saw your reaction when you also found it.
I mean, once I found Flippers, I was like, it's not good. And that was like such a nasty place for them too, because it was like, I'll do that whenever I have Flippers. But, I did tell myself, I'm like, if Flippers are there, it's going to be really bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it looked like he was ahead regardless, so I don't really think the fact that I didn't know that they were there, maybe it would have changed some decisions, but either way, I do think that he was probably still ahead, even if I knew that the Flippers were there and I go into ice. But it's because you're too fast, Blaine. Slow down.
The last 2 races I actually have been okay with. I really feel like I was getting away with some pretty bad play earlier in the brackets, but maybe we're warmed up now because the race against Dunka, really race against Willard, race against Dunka, and obviously this one. I feel like I actually put a decent execution. Usually it's like you route well, but you execute like garbage, or vice versa. You're killing it in execution, but you just keep last locationing everything. That's my experience with Rando. Last couple of races have been pretty good, so the music's got to stop at some point. I'll wait until it stops before I sit down, but it's been a pretty ridiculous run. Getting as lucky as I've been getting, and that's look. We started this top 32, and you could have polled the room, and all 32 people would have said the person who gets luckiest is going to win this thing because everybody in here is pretty good. So if I'm the luckiest,
I picked Buane, not the luckiest one. I picked Buane when we did that.
Well, so far Buane's getting pretty lucky. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Like you just try to have fun with it. It's supposed to be a chaotic, maybe not like super fair. Just a bunch of best of ones. Look, it's fun though. You can't go in here looking for anything beyond. Let's have a good time, play some rando, and have some laughs if it doesn't work out. Or sometimes if it does work out, you can laugh about that too.
Yeah, we enjoyed your little moments, right? Like in Hookshot Cave.
Oh yeah, I hovered Hookshot Cave in this seat. It was great.
Yeah. Ack, have you ever hovered to the first chest? Or tried to hover to the first chest?
Not the first chest, the first platform.
Oh, the first
You
platform.
picked up
Yeah, I picked up the pot. I said, okay, well, I guess I can hover. And I hovered over, and then as I'm turning my controller around, just walked off the edge instead of bonking over the edge.
Okay.
Yeah, it was...
Did you go back and get them all, too?
No, I mean, I was only missing Hookshot at that point, so I wasn't going to hover the...
That's a very good point, yeah. I was just thinking, though, the only thing that could have been there for me was Flippers.
Had a good chuckle about it, though, so...
Well, GG's to you both. I think we'll get everything wrapped up here. Looking forward to see Buane tomorrow. Go ahead, Clear Mouse.
Oh no, I was actually just asking, Dante, do you know anything about tomorrow's like logistics, like when the games are going to be scheduled?
So that is
Right now?
That is all up to Rick. We are kind of at the mercy of SpeedGaming to make sure they get their, we get the finals up, in a good slot. And I don't quote me on this because I know some times that have been thrown around were potentially 1 p.m. Eastern for game 1 of grand finals, and if there's a game 2, potentially 6 p.m. Those are all tentative. They are not set in stone. But that is what the talk has been like those times for now. We'll have to wait and see. Keep an eye on the schedule, and keep an eye on these channels, and we'll maybe hit that bell or something. Get a notification. You'll know when this is going on.
Yeah.
But this is definitely a race.
Tomorrow's not super great for me. Can we push it off till Monday?
Oh my god! All right. You'll have to take that up with SG staff, not me.
Is Matt listening out there? Matt, let's just go right now. Wayne's ready. I'll referee it. Let's take the gloves off. Let's go.
Yeah, Matt, I hope you're not like sleeping or something like that. This was a pretty.
Matt, wake up. Let's race.
So good.
But tomorrow's not good for me either. I'm gonna take a break too.
Well, I mean, so certainly, everyone here is looking forward to watching you, Blaine, and Matt. If you're out there, race tomorrow, basically for the grand title of SGL 2021. It's actually going to be really exciting. So, Ack, you're going to be around to maybe, potentially commentate?
Yeah. 1 p.m. Lord, yeah, I guess I'll pull an all-nighter.
I mean, if you go to sleep like right now, you might be able to wake up in time.
No, we got crying to do later than bedtime.
No. I'm gonna go get some kibble, just a little bit though, right?
Yeah. Like, you gotta ration this off, puppy. We didn't quite bring home the bacon, but I got a couple little edge pieces here you can have.
I mean, bacon bits, for a puppy is just as good, right, as like actual bacon.
Yeah, didn't bring home the bacon. I just got a little cup of bacon bits.
Yeah, but I mean,
I do believe I will be around, and I am super stoked and excited for it. God willing, though, we'll see what happens. Got to figure out when it is first. Can't quote Dainty. He said not to.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I can't make that decision. That is above my pay grade, so to speak. But yeah, thank you guys again. A big shout out to Link for tracking for us, clicking all the buttons, keeping us in check, because you don't want me clicking the buttons. I know that's for sure. And big shout outs to these runners for putting on this great race. This race was really good, all things considered. I know Ack probably didn't think it was that great, but yeah, like two guys playing out of their minds, and leaving it all out there for you is always a great watch. But I will throw it over to you, Clear Mouse, to finish us off here.
Yeah, no, thanks. Again, Ag and Blaine, always so happy to be able to, put on such a great, show and restream for you. I think it's our privilege to be able to restream you. So, thank you so much for putting on actually such an amazing race. For us, you guys are top players. Really looking forward, of course, seeing you guys, keep playing more rando. Thanks again, Blink Force, basically, for putting forth basically all this effort. You've done, so much tracking for us, for this whole entire tournament. Certainly very appreciated. Dante, always a pleasure to be able to commentate for you. I'm sorry this was not the 105 1 hour seed. Blaine tried really hard though, so maybe he'll try and make it faster, tomorrow against Matt.
It was still sub 120, so it all worked out, I guess.
Yeah. So definitely, keep your eyes on the schedule. We'll definitely let everyone know, as soon as basically we know. I assume there can be maybe a ping going out tomorrow sometime, before the race, hopefully. But,
we'll figure something out to alert folks if you're in the Discord.
Yeah. But of course, until then, have a great evening or morning or wherever you are, and looking really forward to the grand finals tomorrow.